Oscars, huh? Too busy. Busy to hang with us tonight. Waiting for the next slap to happen. Is that what's going on here? Well, for those of you who are here, welcome everyone to Geeky Geezers. I'm your Geeky Geezers. There we go.
There
I'm your
you go.
host, Aged Boomer. My co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello.
And I think Netter's in the background somewhere.
Netter is in the background. Still not feeling too good. Those of you that were tuning in last night know after her 2-day business rah-rah session or whatever that was on site, she's just not feeling too good. She thinks that she may have encountered a coworker or something who was carrying a bug. I personally,
Probably.
And the other option is, and she agrees, it could just be the equivalent of what we used to call con-funk. You'd go to the conventions, be around a bunch of people, breathing whatever it is they're carrying, plus the crummy air in those hotels and stuff. And now she's got a bit of a sore throat.
300 people crammed into one room.
Yeah.
It's con-funk.
It's con-funk.
Maybe some hot tea.
Yep, absolutely. She slept most of the day.
That's good.
But it's what we got to do, right? Especially after you spend a couple of years away from everybody, not having any physical contact. Gee, I wonder if that might affect your immune system a little bit, huh?
Wow, that's like something out of a dystopia you're talking about there, honestly. Science
fiction. Maybe it's just me being paranoid, right? I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Never happened.
That's not science, right?
No. All right. Thank you, Big Al. Have a great show, my friends. Hope everyone in the chat has a great weekend ahead. Thank you, Big Al. You're watching the Oscars, aren't you? It ain't that interesting. The Holdovers was good. That was nominated for Best Picture. That's a good movie. I'll give it that. That's a good old-fashioned Best Picture nom. Horizon Talker, welcome. Last call, Troy Pacelli. Wow, we got Troy Pacelli in the chat. And,
yes, you do.
Continuum Chronicles, welcome.
CK, good to see you, my friend.
Welcome. Zootopia, welcome. Netter's Network, we were just talking about you, but welcome. Matanui, welcome. I got like a sinus thing going on too. I don't know. Our weather's changing down here, but it's like it's getting warm, so it's me getting used to that. Jessica Guajardo. And not watching. Okay, getting updates online. I'm sorry. I'm just messing with you, Big Al. All right, and Sashi, welcome. All right. So here we are, and let me go ahead and present the little slideshow we have here, Geeky Geezers. And here we go.
I'm glad you do that now, because it makes me feel good, because I put some work into those thumbnails.
Well, Pacific 414, welcome. All right, so yeah, there we go. These are the wonders within this thing. What's going on here? Maybe some Karate Kid news tonight. Maybe some more Disney lawsuits. According to deleted scenes on his channel, the Disney bots are out and about tonight. Not sure what that's all about. Dakota Johnson, we'll talk about her later. And, of course, Sweet Baby Inc. But first, let's bring you back to 1995. Do you remember 1995?
Yeah, I'd been married for 3 years. Living in a tiny little apartment on the north side of Chicago. I remember it.
I had graduated high school in the spring and was beginning community college in the fall. And in my opinion, this is the last big year for the Super Nintendo because, of course, 1996, out comes the Nintendo 64. So here's some of the big games for the Super Nintendo that fall, that Christmas season. You have Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. This is the one with which is like it takes the stork screws up and drops baby Mario off in the Mushroom Kingdom by accident, and Yoshi and the other dinosaurs had to protect him. So you have a crying baby Mario if he gets knocked off your back while you're trying to ferry him to safekeeping.
That's funny.
Very impressive game for the time. Looked like a children's coloring book. The backgrounds, they were all drawn like a children's coloring book would draw them. If you were to touch there's one stage which was called Touch, I think it was called Touch Flower Get Dizzy. I believe that was the stage's name. When Yoshi would touch one of the flowers, his eyes would get all starry and the backgrounds would get all warped and twisting and everything else.
So, in other words, it was the whole mushroom concept.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that sort of thing. But I thought it was funny, oh, it's Nintendo. They're the vanilla company. Someone snuck that in there. It's just funny. Used the Super FX2 chip, which was a very advanced chip, so you had some very fancy effects in this game. Also, Donkey Kong Country 2 came out this year. Diddy's Kong Quest. Not Diddy Kong's Quest. People often call it Diddy Kong's Quest. It's Diddy's Conquest. Don't confuse those. He's joined by Dixie Kong. What are they trying to do? They're trying to rescue Donkey Kong, who's been kidnapped by the evil Kremlings. Look at that, huh? Okay. Moving right along, Killer Instinct. Any of y'all remember Killer Instinct?
I don't think I know this one at all.
This is another Rare made game. These two are Rare games. They were a British developer that Nintendo owned a stake in, so they were working on games for the Nintendo 64. This was like I want to say Nintendo's answer to like Mortal Kombat. It used rendered graphics. So did Donkey Kong Country. Rendered graphics were where I think the idea was you would create the image on a computer and then digitize them as a sprite. So the games almost had like a clay animation type look to them. But okay,
interesting.
Anyway. But of course, the big game this year was Chrono Trigger.
Sounds like a time travel game.
It's a time travel game, yes. I bring this up because it's going to tie into, unfortunately, our first in memoriam tonight. But Akira Toriyama, artist behind Dragon Ball Z and the Dragon Quest video game series, he also did the artwork for Chrono Trigger. But yeah, this is an RPG by Squaresoft before they became Square Enix and merged with Enix. And this was a huge RPG for the Super Nintendo. I almost consider this like almost like one of the last big Super Nintendo games, if not the last one. This was like a big epic finale for the system. And the prior year we had Final Fantasy VI come out for the Super Nintendo, but this year we had Chrono Trigger. And it's a time travel game, as I said. Here are all our characters in the game. There you see, you got Chrono. And you also have Marie, Luca. I'll explain who these characters are in a minute, though. That's another picture of them. So the idea behind this game is that all these characters come from different time periods. This is a robot from the future. She's Chrono's friend and inventor. She's from a prehistoric time period. She's in the cave, the cave people outfit, the animal skins and whatnot.
Sure.
She's a princess. That's a knight that was cursed and turned into a frog in the Middle Ages. Like an anthropomorphic frog that was part of his curse. But
yeah,
cover looks weirdly like Marie is casting fire on Chrono's sword, even though everyone knows she's an ice mage. Yeah, good point. And there's the evil Magus, or is he so evil? He was one of the antagonists of the game. Until there comes a point where you get to have him join your party. But yeah, the whole point of this game is it's about time travel. You go to the celebration where this kingdom is celebrating their defeat of the evil Magus, like I think a few hundred years prior, and they're having a nice celebration. You run into this girl in town, and meanwhile, your friend, the inventor Luca, she has created a teleportation device, apparently. Where you can like the Fly, a la the Fly. But I guess the teleportation device, it gets fused with the magic pendant on the princess's neck, and then suddenly the princess gets sent back in time to the Middle Ages, and you have to go find her. And it's the whole series, the whole game, though, is about time travel and stuff like that. But yeah, let me see here. Anyone here play Chrono Trigger? That's the future. Humans are living in dome cities because the Earth is a wasteland. Why is the Earth a wasteland? You'll find that out as you continue with the game. Yeah, but these are different periods. I don't know if that could be the prehistoric or the medieval era. That's the Magus. This right here is the main villain of the game. This is Lagos. According to Wikipedia, this creature right here is Oh, I hate it when this happens. Why did my notes screw up with me?
It looks completely Lovecraftian, whatever it is.
Kind of, yeah, maybe. And in Japan, they're big fans of Lovecraft, and I'm not saying he's necessarily maybe, yeah. Basically, Lavos is an alien parasite with immense destructive powers, which crash landed into the year 65,000 BC, in the and didn't started getting and slept gaining power until 1999 when he emerged and put the world into an apocalyptic state. Apparently, Lavos' plan was eventually revealed that Lavos came to Earth with the intention of draining its energy so that it could produce genetically enhanced spawn, which would then continue to cycle onto other planets and do the same thing. What do you think of that? So, your main goal of this game is to destroy Lavos. It's the only way you're going to stop the world from being put in that horrible state that we saw in the future right there. And even the evil Magus, who you think is the villain, turns out his whole modus operandi is he's trying to figure out a way to, destroy this entity as well. So he ends up begrudgingly joining your side at some point. Or you can kill him. You have the choice of doing either. But
Interesting.
it's interesting. The robotic character, his name is Robo. He's a futuristic robot. He was rendered dormant by the apocalypse, but is found and repaired by Luca. And Robo has no memory of his prior mission and joins the party. Robo was branded a traitor to his maker, Mother Brain, a rogue computer who opposes humans and desires a utopia of robots.
Of
what
course.
Do you think of that?
Kill all humans.
Kill all the humans, yes. I'm trying to see here. Frog, he's an anthropomorphic frog knight from the Middle Ages era. He was called Keru in the Japanese materials. He was born as a human by the name Glenn and a friend of the late brave knight Cyrus. After witnessing Cyrus at the hand of the Magus and being transformed into a frog, Frog vowed to avenge Cyrus by killing Magus. So at some point in the game, you're given a choice. You either kill help Frog achieve vengeance, or admit the Magus into your party. And the thing is, this game has tons and tons of different endings.
Wow.
There's one ending, I think, that if you defeat the Lavos early, like in the BC era, instead of humans taking over civilization, it's the reptiles, which are this lizard-like people, end up taking over the world. And when it goes to the present, Chrono wakes up and he's a reptile instead of a human.
Wow, interesting.
It's all sorts of stuff in this. Now, I'm not the biggest Chrono Trigger expert. My brother was obsessed with this. I did buy it at launch. I want to say it was $59.99. Games tend to be, people think games are expensive now. They were expensive back then. That was $90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just cool. It was a cool RPG, great soundtrack, and art done by the Dragon Ball Z artist. So I kind of wanted to share with you, I guess, my own personal history with the Dragon Ball Z artist is mainly from Chrono Trigger. Did you say that Netter watched Dragon Ball Z, though? Is that right?
Yeah, so we were married in
both watching?
92, and her son used to watch Dragon Ball Z, so she
Right.
kind of started getting into it too. And I can't remember what channel it was that carried it, but we were able to watch pretty much everything that had been out at that time. And yeah, she kind of really got into it, at least what story it had. It seemed pretty basic to me, but started to lose me and confuse me when they would have this evolution of these characters where they power up and turn all radiant or whatever, but I wasn't watching it very avidly, so I didn't know.
See, I did not watch Dragon Ball Z. A while back, I think Funimation or some company released a DVD set of what was known as the Ocean English dub, which I guess Dragon Ball Z had a different English dub when it first aired on American TV. That was probably the version you watched. Later on, Funimation did their own dub, and I guess redid this because, of course, the Ocean dub didn't finish the series; it just finished what was made up to that point. Right. I bought this set, and I had a coworker, a lovely woman who said that she wanted to. When I told her I had the Ocean dub Dragon Ball Z set, that she was going to break into my house and steal it from me. She wanted it that badly. On her last day, we had her going away party. I gave her a going away present. I said, I bought you a used gift, and I gave her the Dragon Ball Z Ocean thing. Because this thing was already worth a lot more money than what I paid for it. But she was a great coworker. She was moving away with her husband, so to another state. But I figured she'd get more use out of it than me, since she was the bigger Dragon Ball Z fan.
Fair enough. Nice.
Oh, but Horizon Talker says Lavos is pretty Lovecraftian, although it's not based on any Lovecraft story. And he says, when Lavos falls to Earth, he wipes out the dinosaurs. So if you fight him in prehistory, he never impacts on Earth, and the reptiles supplant humanity. Oh, I see. Okay, interesting.
Oh, that's the explanation for it. Okay, I get it now.
Dragon Ball Z mostly came out on Cartoon Network on the Toonami block. Perhaps that's where it
That's
was on.
that's where we saw it then. Yeah, it was the Cartoon Network.
I didn't watch it on Cartoon Network. I used to watch Sailor Moon. I was a Sailor Moon nut. Don't ask me why, because it was a weird.
I don't want to know.
You know what? When I was watching it, when I got into it, I was probably still in the teens. I was still 18 or 19, so leave me alone.
Yeah.
Granted, they're in middle school apparently on the show, but never mind.
Right.
Oh, there's so much. My favorite Sailor Scout was Sailor Jupiter too. She was my favorite. But there used to be a joke site I think called Sailor Moon Says, where they were putting on a play for Snow White, and they were all arguing over who should be Snow White, and Sailor Jupiter got really angry and said, I should be Snow White. And I think someone surmised that she thought she should be Snow White because she had the biggest breasts of the group or something.
Oh gosh.
I don't know if that was in the original translation or not, because I guess you can finally read that now. But Akira Toriyama has passed on. That's mainly why I want to bring up Chrono Trigger and Dragon Ball and all that.
And this is another one of those reasons why I'm glad we're a weekly show here, and I'm not trying to do stuff by day, because the first notification that I got of it was an official, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this primary source from the company, translated in English on Twitter. It was
yeah.
see if I can actually.
You had sent it to me. I remember that over.
I did, and I knew as I sent it to you, I was like, "Well, by the time Sunday comes along, I'm sure people will be talking about it," because I wasn't finding any corroboration, anywhere on the interwebs or whatever. But on the main site for Dragon Ball Official, you know what? Real quick, let me just go ahead and read this letter from Dragon Ball Official. Dear friends and partners, and again, this is a translation, but it's their translation. We are deeply saddened to inform you that manga creator Akira Toriyama passed away on March 1st due to acute subdural hematoma at the age of 68. It's our deep regret that he still had several works in the middle of creation with great enthusiasm. Also, he would have many more things to achieve. However, he has left many manga titles and works of art to this world. Thanks to the support of so many people around the world, he has been able to continue his creative activities for over 45 years. We hope that Akira Toriyama's unique world of creation continues to be loved by everyone for a long time to come. We inform you this sad news with gratefulness for your kindness during his lifetime. Funeral service was held with his family and very few relatives. Following his wishes for tranquility, we respectfully inform you that we would not accept flowers, condolence gifts, visiting offerings, and others. Also, we ask you to refrain from conducting interviews with his family. Future plan for probably to commemorate commemorate gathering. Oh, for a commemorative gathering is what they mean to say, is not decided. We will let you know when it's confirmed. We deeply thank you for your understanding and support always. March 28th, 2024, Bird Studios, Capsule Corporation, Tokyo.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they said refrain from giving gifts. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it's a little clunky because it is a translation from Japanese, but you get the impression. It's the same kind of thing that here they usually say. They ask for privacy in this time of to grieve and so on and so forth. Please refrain from da 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 and this and that. I get it. I get the intent. Even if the translation's a little bit wonky.
Akira Toriyama passed away, and Sweet Baby Inc. staff couldn't help themselves in criticizing him. Yes, I saw the post.
We will get to
We'll
those
get to them
worthless
later.
wastes of human offal.
And the person in question made it public real quick just to do the post and then ran away again because that's what they do.
Because they're useless children, yes.
But no, apparently lots of people were fans of only 2 animes by Akira came out on the cartoon was Dragon Ball, and the other was Blue Shadow Dragon series. Oh, that's interesting. I remember there was the Blue Shadow RPG for the Xbox. I wonder if one was based on the other. But I know Sashi said he had watched the Dragon Ball Z dubbed when he was in Malaysia. So that was interesting. Totally recommend watching. Totally marked as major viewing some of the best anime, manga, TV series. Okay, well we'll look into that. But yeah,
no. That's interesting, Horizon Talker.
What?
For the curious, Tori means bird and Toriyama translated the first syllable into English to name his studio, thus Bird Studio. Interesting. Yeah, I was kind of wondering what that connection was. Thank you for that.
I'll read real quick from the main article, though. Akira Toriyama, the highly influential Japanese manga artist who created the medium-defining franchise Dragon Ball in the 1980s and shepherded its growth as it became a global phenomenon, died March 1st due to an acute subdural hematoma.
Yeah.
He was 68. Toriyama's death was confirmed by the official Dragon Ball website, which posted a statement honoring the creator on Thursday evening. It's our deep regret that he. You already said that. Never mind.
Yeah,
that's what you had read. But,
yeah, no reason to read their quote of it. Yeah,
but yeah, Dragon Ball Z. They also goes on to mention his other credits include various one-shot manga runs as well as character designs for video game classics like Chrono Trigger and the Dragon Quest series.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Dragon Quest at all. That's a collection of his illustrations for the games. But biggest RPG series in Japan, I want to say, I think it still is. Dragon Quest was so popular that Japanese schools would eventually just said on release day of a new Dragon Quest game, they just wouldn't have school because they knew the kids were going to skip and go out and buy the game.
Nice.
That's how popular this series was. Goes back to the NES days where it was known over here as Dragon Warrior. But he did all the character designs for them. But yeah, it's sad. He was a living legend. Like I said, not as huge a fan of Dragon Ball Z. Not that I'm nothing against it. I just never got around to watching it. But despite the fact that I like the anime, I've not seen every anime. Even though I know that's one of the bigger ones. But yeah, he'll be missed. He did a lot of game designs too. Like there's a new Bandai Namco game coming out for modern consoles that he did the designs for too. That's coming out. It looks like a Mad Max type of thing where it's like a desert area.
I do feel that there's a whole area of history that I need to dig into, like the history of manga and animation in Japan and that whole entertainment milieu, because I was just watching a video today about the woman who created ElfQuest and how she was inspired by manga before anyone in the United States was even reading it.
Interesting.
And it was a very interesting look at how she got to meet people in the industry, both here and over there, and even her connection to George R.R. Martin. So, yeah, it got me thinking. I am missing a whole area, and then of course Michael French is doing, his. He just recently did his deep dive into what was that? Evangelion, yeah. But he's also been making a bunch of other videos that he's got coming up for other stories, and I'm like, okay, I got to start looking into this. People have been after me long enough. Now that I'm seeing how all this stuff interconnects. And then, like last night, I'm on with Big Al, we're talking kaiju and stuff. And I'm like, there's a close relationship there too. I need to start paying attention to this.
But yeah, I think if you were to start going back history-wise, you might want to start with Osamu Tezuka, who was famous for creating Astro Boy and Kimba the
Yes.
White Lion.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
Also, that Metropolis movie I told you about, that was a remake. That was actually based on a manga by Osamu Tezuka. But in fact, you could argue that his version of Metropolis takes place in the same universe as Astro Boy. But
Interesting.
it's in a very dystopian, horrible city where there's all this strife between humans and robots and other things. Because for starters, the regular class of humans, robots put them out of work.
Right.
So they hate robots because they don't have they're struggling to survive. But then again, robots don't have the same rights as citizens either. So it's this whole weird tiered society, and
That sounds interesting. That sounds really.
It was a good movie too. It was made in the early 2000s. In fact, I think the gentleman that created Akira, the famous Akira movie, made it. But I teach animation at the Mansfield Art Center, specifically anime. I didn't know this. Continuum Chronicles. Are you a fan of the movie Robot Carnival? Just out of curiosity, that was really what got me into anime. It was a short, it was an anthology movie of animated shorts about robots, but it was all. I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel one day. That's how I caught my anime for Cartoon Network. Was on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes.
Remember Sci-Fi Channel? Yeah, Astro Boy is one of the oldest anime titles out there. Yeah.
Cool. That does sound like where I need to start then, but yeah.
Yeah, you might like Astro Boy. It's old-fashioned science fiction. Speed Racer, if you want to go back, Speed Racer, that is anime.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. So, yeah, and that's what I usually tell people. It's like, well, for me, anime is basically, Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets,
That's another one. That was the same company that did Battle of the Planets, did Speed Racer.
Yep.
Because a wonderful game for the Wii. I'm not going to say that about too many Wii games, but the Capcom made a fighting game in Japan, and they brought it over here called Tatsunoko versus Capcom. So it was all Tatsunoko anime characters, like the characters of Gotcha Man. Battle of the Planets were in it.
Wow.
And they'd be fighting like Ken from Street Fighter 2. And it was like, and I don't know which side was more messed up, the gaming side or the anime side. And people asked them though, he says, "Hey, where's Speed Racer in this game?" They said, "What's he gonna do in the fighting game? Drive a car onto the stage?"
That would be interesting, right?
That's why he wasn't in it. Because people over here, they know Speed Racer, but they were like, "We're not gonna put Speed Racer in the fighting game." That's what they said.
What would also be cool is if maybe he had like a watch or a belt or something where he could press the buttons and activate, the things that were on the Mach 5, the bird would come flying, or the buzzsaw or whatever.
I remember that. That was something. Someone out there make a Speed Racer racing game.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh!
Using all the characters from the show, like the villains too. That'd be interesting.
Well, and I was going to say, but then you give the villains, some special abilities too to make it interesting.
Sure.
Because I think sometimes the villains tended to get a little bit just.
There was one Speed Racer racing thing where one of the race cars was a giant like Mack truck. It was just knocking the cars off the road. It's like,
and then there was the one that was basically a land train.
So you could have a truck on the race.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead. What? Sorry. Go ahead.
Troy, if I were you, I'd start with. See, this is what I mean. As soon as I say that I might be interested in getting into this, I'm going to get all the suggestions. Where to start?
And I will say one thing in defense of Record of the Lotus War. It's only the OVA is only, I think, 13 episodes long, and it's basically D&D. It's a D&D world.
Yeah, it's anime D&D, Lord of the Rings type.
In fact, it's based on their version of D&D. Lotus War is their version of D&D. It was an RPG system.
I would not be surprised if that wasn't part of the inspiration for ElfQuest, like I was just saying.
Maybe. But, it's so annoying. What was so annoying, though, is that Wizards of the Coast, I think that someone was at one point trying to broker a deal bringing Lotus War over here and making it a world of D&D like Forgotten Realms or Dragon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Of course, anime was starting to become on the rise, and this world already exists in Japan. Japanese role players already playing Lotus. Why don't we incorporate this world into American D&D? And I think the woman running the East Coast said no.
Well, fuck you very much.
It's interesting. It's almost like looking at another D&D world if you watch the show. Because I heard the system was based on the Tunnels and Trolls system, though, which was
okay.
Right? Yeah, but An animated version of Pluto, modern media, respectful for imagined classic stories based on Astro Boy. Okay. Based on Astro Boy, but what? Hope it doesn't get dark. Elf Quest came out for Lotus War, but Wendy Pini, who made Elf Quest, did things like Star Blazers. Okay, stuff like that. Well, anyway, one of the great minds of manga and Japanese animation is no longer with us, though, and it's sad. I remember when Satoshi Kon died tragically younger than he should have, and he was a brilliant filmmaker, and he did one series too called Paranoia Agent, which I always get the feeling his movies sometimes, especially Paranoia Agent, it almost did like a critical eye to Japanese culture rather than celebrating it, like the one main protagonist in there, she's trying to make a version of Hello Kitty because her version of it was called Mellow Maroni, and you could tell it was a Hello Kitty style type of thing, and it's just didn't Lodos eventually get translated to the Sword World system? Possibly, because I know Sword World is their big RPG system they use now, so that makes sense. Yeah, Sword World is what they have in Japan instead of D&D. Just in case you know, because they kids meet up for role playing games. They have role playing sessions like they do here in the West. They just have their own modules and their own system over there. And you know what got the Japanese into role playing games, Troy? You'll like this story. I'm going to tell.
I guess I don't.
I forget the man's name, but he was a son of I think he was a son of a Japanese ambassador in Japan, and he was very good with the computers, and he knew Japanese, but he was also American. And he was going around there trying to introduce the burgeoning computer game industry over there. Hey, this thing we have over in the United States called Dungeons and Dragons, the Japanese will eat it up or whatever, right? And he eventually created a game called Black Onyx, which I don't think sold well initially, but then it kind of took off. And then they did a follow-up to Black Onyx, and I think that's what became Dragon Quest. And, of course, this ties us back to Akira Toriyama. So, in a way, we did introduce the RPG to Japan, but they took to it pretty quickly. Not at first, but now they're... A lot of modern anime, it's like characters use RPG statistics when they're leveling up and stuff too. It's weird, but anyway. Yeah. We had another death this week too.
Yeah, and this one, only some of our older audience might actually even know who this is. Steve Lawrence.
Steve Lawrence, there we go. Of Steve and Edie fame, died at 88.
I knew him from all of the old... you guys have heard me talking about those variety shows of the 70s mostly, but early on in the 70s, you had the Dick Van Dyke Show, you had Rona Martin's Laugh-In, the Dean Martin Show, obviously. I have, and he was on all of them. Was on at least one episode of the Carol Burnett Show, as I recall. But I think the first thing that most of our audience might remember him from was he played Maury in the movie The Blues Brothers. Small role. Everybody, guessed it in that movie,
That was like a who's who.
It was a who's who of, everybody back
says
then,
here
right?
He was known as an easygoing crooner.
Yep. That's most of what he does was music related. He and his wife Edie Gourmet, duet, a lot of old standards and so forth.
His death was due to complications of Alzheimer's disease. Oh,
that's why we hadn't heard from him in a long time.
That's so rough. But yeah, they were top selling artists throughout the 50s and 60s and 70s. Lawrence and Gourmet. Yeah, let me see.
I would be hard pressed to think of a song off the, except maybe Go Away Little Girl. That's the only song of his that I can think of that pops into my head. Everything else that he ever did that I ever heard him do, especially on these variety shows and whatnots, were generally like standards, or he was singing with whoever the host was or whatever. So,
later in his career, Lawrence played Morty Fine, the father of Fran Fine, on Fran Drescher on The Nanny in the CBS series final season. Did you know that?
I did I can't remember. I'm not going to say I didn't know because I did watch the show. I just don't remember.
But they had 2 children.
And
David,
this was another of those celebrities that unfortunately wasn't passed on. My mom wasn't a big fan of his. My grandmother kind of was. She liked Stephen Eady, but so I never really got into it. You know, you wouldn't surprise me if you told me that they appeared on the Love Boat, for example.
Did they?
I have no idea. I'll look and see.
It's either Love Boat or Cannonball Run. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I suppose.
Oh, Cannonball Run.
Let's see. That was in the 7th. No, I'm not seeing a Love Boat on his CV, but like I said, had you told me that he was, I would.
Carol Burnett show.
Definitely Carol Burnett show. Yep. I remember that episode. He did a couple different. Well, you know how it was. It was a sketch show. So
just Googled him. It looks like he's saying, "I gotta be me." Look at that.
I'm sure at some point he must have covered that. Like I said, he did all the standards and whatnot.
Well, rest in peace. Sad to see him go. But yeah, I'm telling you, we're losing. We'll have to do more variety specials on your Friday night stream at some point.
Maybe. Some of them, you know, they're kooky, but it's kind of like a slice of history, you know. And especially and what I really enjoyed doing was that last one we did with the Donnie and Marie show, because then I could go through and share with you all the jokes that would otherwise go over your head because they were, you know, either related to celebrities of the day or the politics of the day or something else that was going on in pop culture back then that most people I hadn't even thought about since the 70s, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to do an image for this next article.
Oh, okay.
We'll just have to go. I'm just going to have to go with the cover.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And you see where I'm going with this, because it's like, it does seem like we have a new lawsuit related to Disney every freaking week. And welcome, Connie Cleary. Thanks so much for being here.
So Disney has been sued for allegedly underpaying.
I have to split this up again.
That's
I'm sorry.
We'll split it up. Welcome, Connie Cleary. Oh,
there we go. So 2 parts. Yeah, this one is interesting. Labor violations for the people working in their hotels. Look, I'm just going to say this. For all the DEI BS that they claim to be in support of, the way they actually treat people is the complete opposite. You know, for all the inclusion they claim, they're awfully discriminatory. And you know, for all the talk of you know, representation and all that kind of stuff, they have this interesting way of mistreating the people that work for them. Just saying.
Yeah. Disney has been sued for allegedly underpaying maintenance workers at its Southern California hotels near its sprawling theme park, on top of a host of other alleged violation of labor laws. The lawsuit filed in Orange County Superior Court on Thursday claims workers were forced to pay for their own tools while not being paid the required double minimum wage and correct overtime rate. The proposed class action seeks at least $1 million in payback. The complaint was filed amid a growing cost of living and poverty crisis that has afflicted workers employed by major companies in the entertainment industry. A UCLA labor study of Universal Studios Hollywood theme park employees found widespread poverty, with 44% of workers reporting that they were worried about being evicted from their homes, and more than half cutting the size of their meals or skipping them altogether because they do not have enough money for food.
Yeah.
A quarter of the workforce has received benefits through food stamps, banks, and other need-based donation programs. According to the complaint filed against Disney, the entertainment giant also failed to provide workers the proper rest and meal periods, as well as accurate wage statements to ensure they are being paid correctly in a willful and deliberate manner. The proposed class action was filed by Assistant Maintenance Engineer Charlie Torres and seeks to represent a group of more than 115 current and former workers. Mr. Torres and so many others are told to cover the expensive tools used on behalf of Disney, who flouts the law and refuses to pay its workers what they're due, said Ron Zabrano, a lawyer for the proposed class. In a statement, Disney is a massive company. They know the law.
Yes.
Disney did not immediately respond to requests for comments.
Of course.
Really?
Shocker. Look, the people that tend to be the pixie duster type, the ones that want to defend Disney all the time for everything, that claim that anybody coming out against Disney is in the Ron DeSantis, Florida right-wing evil people group, right? Tend to be the same ones usually that complain about things like better minimum wage, people deserve a living wage, blah, 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 fairness for the workers, labor, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'd like to know how you square those two things up here. Just saying, because you're, this big corporation that you tend to fawn all over and bootlick for, pixie dusters, is not treating people the way they should legally. Okay. That left coast out there, California, has some of the most, in quotes, progressive labor laws, and clearly Disney is actively circumventing them. Allegedly.
I think they probably are. We'll find out how the lawsuit breaks down. We need to be keeping an eye on all these lawsuits too as they move along. I guess
there's
I know
a lot of them. I'm not even joking when I say it seems like we got another one each week. I didn't even bother. You'll notice I had a whole section planned for Disney, and I didn't even bother because I'm like, we're talking Disney all the time. I don't want to become the all Disney all the time Geeky Geezers. We'll just change it to, Geeky Disney reporters. You don't need
Disney
that.
owns half the entertainment industry. I'm kidding.
Well, and it's funny because we'll kind of come back around to it because I have a whole section on the entertainment industry in crisis.
Oh man!
So we'll touch on Disney again.
I have to say, out of all the stuff, I mean, this what we're going to discuss in a minute makes me upset. But all the stuff going on with that, we forget in Hollywood there are all the regular workers out there.
Yeah,
the people that operate the cameras and stuff, and these are supposed to be professional jobs, and they're
and here's another great example. What you're talking about is hotel workers and maintenance engineers. Yeah. We're talking about guys that work in these hotels who have to fix the electricity, change the light bulbs, fix the crown molding that's falling down or whatever, and they have to supply their own tools. Do I work for you or am I a private contractor? Because if I'm a private contractor, I'll tell you when I'm working. It's not going to be the other way around. If I work for you, then you need to supply me with materials and tools and stuff on site. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting lawsuit. I'll be keeping an eye on it, but my attention. I am clearly somebody who's interested in these lawsuits, right? I have a buddy of mine who's an attorney. He says you missed your calling by not going into law. Well, I couldn't see myself practicing law. I'm just interested in the law. I am interested in these cases, and I follow them. But there's getting to be too many for me to follow at this point. If I was just focused on Disney, it's crazy.
Now into the wonderful world of video games.
Yeah.
Let's do the first one, the Sweet Baby Inc. Okay, let me give you a little background as to what Sweet Baby Inc. is.
A waste of skin.
What?
They're a waste of skin. Everyone that works for them.
Okay. Back when the whole Spider-Man 2 controversy was coming up, and someone mentioned, I think it might have been Synthetic Man, one of his videos where he started talking about Sweet Baby Inc. and that they are a consulting firm that you as a game developing company, you go pay them the money and they'll tell you what you have to put in your games to get a nice ESG rating. Basically, how do I make my game woke to please the
The woke overlords.
Yes, basically, yes. But this was from a presentation she had. I had to share this because Sweet Baby Inc. CEO and co-founder Kim Belair says white male gamers are picky babies. At the beginning,
That's always a great start, right? You know, to insult all of your customers, all of them.
At the beginning of her presentation, Belair made it abundantly clear what her and her company's goals are. We do narrative development in games and kind of beyond, and we try to bring inclusion, diversity, and new ideas kind of to the industry. Later in the presentation, she also confirmed the company acts as sensitivity readers for video games, saying we need sensitivity readers, we need risk assessment, and these are like, again, important services that I literally like list on every PDF that I send out to be like, hey, I can do risk assessment and sensitivity reading. About 2/3 through the 30-minute presentation, Belair compared white male gamers to picky babies, saying, I think our industry, and in so many creative industries, if you want to look at film and television, any art form, we start treating our core demographics as a fixed and static value, something that does not want to change, and something that is locked in place. So despite the changing face of our audiences, despite the changing face of conferences like this one, we still look at our core demographic and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, and we cater almost exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them like a picky baby. She elaborated, we feed them the same thing that we know that they love, and we keep on feeding it. We're like, here you go. We know you love it. Eat this, eat this, eat this. So when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which would be like, oh, no, thank you. I do not want this. And we've actually done this so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games.
Yeah, she thinks she's so mature, and yet she's kind of using kind of like this kind of language. Yeah, she's real mature, right?
I'm gonna say the use of the word baby is damn cringe. Well, this is what happens when you're maternal. When you have to use your maternal instinct for something, and you're not using it for actually having your own family, I assume. But all right,
well,
that's a point. I know nothing about this woman, but this is like this is like, I don't know. This is like a Nurse Ratched thing.
Yeah, no, this is the exact same thing I've been talking about so many of these other ESG, proponents, right? These are not people that are trying to make your games and your movies and your whatnot better. They are literally existing to push an ideology. And in so doing, they do not care about how well the game sells or how many people go to see the movie or whatever. In fact, quite the opposite. They want to destroy these institutions because they're ideologues. I know it flies in the face because we look at this and we go, these companies are falling apart and ceasing to exist. Why do they keep doing it? Because that's what this is all about. You misunderstand the intention here. This is operating as designed for those of you that are, technically minded. This isn't a bug. This is a feature.
And one thing that I get very annoyed by this, it's always the white male gamer. And I'm sorry, growing up, even starting in grammar school, elementary school, maybe it was a predominantly male audience, but it was every shade, every race liked video games.
And the reactions to this are from everybody. It's from women. It's from people of color. It's from everybody saying, we didn't like it. We don't want you involved. Go the hell away. Yes. You can call us whiny babies all you want. You are not getting our money. So you can go and cry about it.
This is like, you're treating your customer like a child. I'm an adult. I buy what I want and I buy what I don't want. And if you don't think that I do research on the games I buy,
think about every other product you consume. You go to a restaurant and you say, I want this, I want this, hold the this, extra this, well done this. They bring you something else entirely and they say, this is what you're going to eat because otherwise you're a picky baby. I stand up and I say, you go make my sandwich the way I told you to, or you don't get my money. Ever again. Bring your manager over right now.
We don't have that in gaming, though. They don't listen.
No,
to
you kind of do, though. When you see the sales of
well, you do. I'm saying the companies
and the returns
aren't getting the message.
Of the Justice League and whatnot, people are basically going to their manager and saying, we will not do business with you if this is the product we are getting, which is exactly why these companies are now turning away from Sweet Baby Inc. That's why all of this is being talked about, because it's not just, people in the YouTube sphere that pay attention to this stuff. It's the average gamer who now knows what Sweet Baby Inc. is. They are the reason that game you wanted to play sucks.
Well, I want to give you a warning. Unfortunately, I don't think they are the only reason. I think that there are other consulting firms out there like Sweet Baby Inc. I also, maybe they're not as vocal.
Sweet Baby Inc. is just the canary in the coal mine.
There might be internal groups within some of the bigger companies too that do this sort of
good
thing.
Then the companies can go bankrupt.
So here we have Sweet Baby Inc. detected. This is you use Steam, correct? There you have curator pages on Steam, correct?
Yes.
So what is it when you're a curator? It's like this is the best. This is sometimes it's calling out great art for people to look at, and then maybe sometimes it's calling out maybe art you want to stay away from. This is a Steam curator page called Sweet Baby Inc.
It's the equivalent of, in some ways, you could almost think of it like Rotten Tomatoes for movies.
Well, yeah. Anyway, go ahead and post the next link if you would, and I'll start reading. This is the big story.
This one in.
Sweet Baby employs incite harassment campaign against a Steam curator. Now, this, in my opinion, goes beyond the pale.
Yep.
This is the guy on Steam. You can become a curator and post.
But again, remember, this is all. If you frame this in terms of the Marxist playbook, this should not be any surprise to you.
So here we go. Individuals who work with Sweet Baby Inc. have begun a harassment campaign against the creator of Sweet Baby Inc.'s detected Steam curator. The curation page is intended to inform users whether a game has relied on Sweet Baby's narrative consultation service. Critics of Sweet Baby believe that their mission of promoting inclusivity is done at the expense of a game's narrative quality. Meanwhile, the Sweet Baby employees criticize the curator for being ideologically motivated against woke people and have mocked the curator's attempts to legitimize their work by avoiding loaded language and instead focusing on informing consumers. The employees in question, Chris Kindred and Felix Kramer, have both mentioned the curator. Meanwhile, Kindred also encouraged their followers to mass flag the curator as well as his personal Steam account, seemingly to punish him. Basically, they wanted not only this page taken down, they wanted his Steam account removed. If you bought a bunch of games, the company would kick you out.
This says so much more about Sweet Baby Inc. than this curator, right? We don't want people to know what games we're working on. Why not? Why not? Everybody else that's in any industry wants what companies they have been affiliated with on their CV, and they're proud of it. Hey, I worked with Disney, and I worked with Warner Brothers, and I worked with, whatever, so hire me. No. They're going into hiding mode. No, we don't want people to know that we're the ones that were responsible for trashing the games they like and then voting with their dollars.
So here's what I understand. Oftentimes you go on Sweet Baby Inc.'s website and you basically see everything they've worked on, and you see this like a game developers conferences. They'll announce, the Sweet Baby Inc. was involved in this new game coming out. Now they don't want this information coming out.
Yep.
Ever since the Kill the Justice League came out that they had been involved with. I also want to make a point that there's a YouTuber known as Asmongold. Many of you probably heard of him. He's pretty big, but he actually interviewed the guy that made this page.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. Guess where he's from? He's from Brazil.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes. Portuguese is his number one language, but he speaks English too. And he was talking about this, and he was saying how I'm sorry, some guy living from Brazil, he wasn't involved in the whole GG, even though the media is acting like it's the return of Gamergate and they're sounding the alarms. And it's a
Well,
guy that made a curator page.
I
that
can
was
agree with them on that because it's a very similar kind of debate on this thing. It's just instead of who was it, Anita Sarkeesian or whoever it was,
Oh,
now it's
man.
these wackadoos from Sweet Baby, whatever the hell.
Photos leaked of her online recently. She had a 40th birthday party. It was wedding themed.
Yes, I saw that.
She
Was
married
so
herself.
cringe. Yes,
Are you
so
kidding
cringe.
me?
Well, she can't get anyone else, so she kind of doesn't have a choice.
I don't understand.
Her personality is the best birth control. It really is.
I'm just saying, but the point is, though, in fact, I often figured her whole plan was to eventually start a consulting firm like this, or to be hired for a company to be consulting.
The problem is, once it gets out publicly that you're involved in this kind of stuff, no one wants to do business with you.
Maybe. But I did have a thought, though. Why are they called Sweet Baby Inc.? Maybe because they want people to be sweet babies and not picky babies, right?
I don't know. Maybe they just throw a bunch of words into a hat and pull them out.
Is this not creepy? Is this not?
It is very creepy. Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to make any other kinds of speculations about it.
Are you a picky baby, Troy? Do you want the best?
When it comes to the money that I spend and the things I want, you're damn right I am. You can call me a baby if you want, or you can call me a responsible adult. You know, if it's not something I'm going to enjoy, I am not going to waste my money on it. I guess it's real easy for these socialists that are just taking money from other people. It's all fucking free to them, so they don't care.
Welcome, Leia Plus Size. Speech made by the head of Sweet Baby was nothing but hate wrapped in pretty words. You know what it is too? It's not that racism is wrong, which it is. It's that racism, but it's only you can't be racist towards certain groups because they want to hate. They still want to hate. They just want to find out who's the acceptable group to hate now, which I guess would be the royal Christian white male.
Give up all you give up all moral high ground when you start saying, cis white males, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Okay, so tell me you're racist without saying you're racist, right? I don't care what race it is, whether it's mine or someone else's, you have no business being that way.
Now, I've heard rumors, or maybe this is fact, I don't know. I think I read somewhere that Sweet Baby Inc., of course, gets a lot of money, perhaps from a company like, it might be either BlackRock or Vanguard or places like that. Is that right?
That may have been true in the past, but I think part of the reason that you're seeing a lot of this stuff in the mainstream media now is because they're not getting that kind of cover anymore. Even BlackRock is now starting to get shaken by the popular response to ESG. The whole ESG thing is falling apart, as I predicted it would. One way or another, it had to. It is not sustainable. And BlackRock is starting to back off of it. So Sweet Baby Inc. and anyone else that might have been getting some cover from them probably ain't it anymore.
BlackRock, just get out of the ESG thing and stick to what you're good at, which is buying up farmland and single-family homes to keep everybody out of the house.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, never mind. Wait a minute. I don't want them doing that either.
I'll be talking more about that off platform, but yeah.
Exactly. How do we end up with these horrible companies?
Complacency. Anyway. We let it happen.
Yeah.
People aren't paying attention. Just like frogs getting boiled in a pot. By the time you realize it's boiling, it's too late. Now you got to, take it all back to brass tacks.
You got to be like the mouse that fell into the bucket of cream, not like the frog being slowly boiled, right?
Well, like the mouse that found his magic kingdom burning down around him. Maybe it needs to go completely bankrupt and start it all over fresh,
I miss Mickey Mouse. I miss old school Disney, I have to say. But all right, Warner Brothers. Also, they've been in the news too. Let's go with them.
Yeah, this is a great.
Anyway, Sweet Baby Inc. We'll be keeping an eye on them. But my point is, this was just ridiculous. They were going nuts over a curator page. He has a right to not recommend games based on a company involved. it's a free platform. Knock it off. This is ridiculous. You have the right to complain about. I mean, no one stopped Anita Sarkeesian from screaming about all the problematic games back in the day. Oh, Double Dragon, regressive crap, and blah blah. And no one said anything about that. So she has the right to do that, but you don't have the right to do the other thing because this is about pushing morality. On. Never mind. Anyway, sorry, my. Okay, WB Games says it plans to double down on live service despite Suicide Squad failing to meet expectations. So they learned nothing. Warner Brothers Games wants to further invest in live service games even after Suicide Squad killed the Justice League failed to impress. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO and president of streaming and games, JB Peretti, spoke about the company's strategy during a recent Morgan Stanley event. He acknowledged the success of projects like single-player Hogwarts Legacy, which managed to be last year's best-selling game in the U.S., but says the business of AAA console releases can be volatile. Okay, there's a great business when you have a hit like Hogwarts Legacy. It makes the year look amazing, Peretti said. Unfortunately, we also have disappointments. We just released Suicide Squad this quarter, which was not as strong. It just makes it very volatile. He explains that Warner Brothers is looking at its 4 major franchises, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and DC, and is hoping to expand in the mobile and multi-platform free-to-play space. It'll take some time for Warner Brothers' efforts to come to fruition, with Peretti estimating we'll see the impact between 2025 and 2027. He does say, though, that the company will release more mobile free-to-play titles later this year. Within the studio segment, we're seeing we're doubling down on games in an area that we think there is a lot more growth opportunities to see. Tap into that intellectual property that we have and some of the capabilities on the studio side where we uniquely position as both publisher and developer of games, he said. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Rather than just launching a one-and-done console game, he goes on to say, how do we develop a game around it? For example, Hogwarts Legacy or Harry Potter, that is a live service game where people can live and work and build and play in that world as on an ongoing basis. What do you mean work? This is supposed to be fun.
It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of these games, that's what they end up becoming. You do all this grinding to accumulate, in-game,
so it's
different
like
forms of currency.
So it's that like you can. Job.
It is like a second job, and that's the problem. And this is also why I stay away from the mobile games, because those mobile games are all about that. They are all about, you got to accumulate these gems, or you got to accumulate this, or you got to accumulate that in order to do this and that and the other in the game. You do have the option of spending real world money if you want to, but they're still making money off you, even if you don't give them cold hard cash, because there's going to be some sort of, especially on the mobile games, there's going to be some sort of advertisement attached to it. Oh, I got to watch a commercial before I continue playing the game, and this and that and so forth. How do they keep you playing? Dopamine. This is why and unfortunately, I'm probably talking to a lot of people who are addicted to these kinds of things. But if you can pull your eyes away from your phone the next time you leave the house, go anywhere and just look at people sitting in a restaurant or waiting in the doctor's office. Every single one of them has their phone out and their eyes down.
This is interesting. Are you not you're not a mobile phone guy, always looking at it every few seconds or whatever?
Nope, I have a mobile phone for making phone calls and receiving calls.
Oh my goodness, you and
sometimes
I
use it as a GPS when I'm in the car.
So I use it as a GPS too. I think you and I have the same relationship to the cell phone.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll text somebody, but for the most part, I don't like using cell phones.
And for me, text is just an extension of the phone's purpose, right? It's a communication device. I can't talk right now. I'm in a movie theater, but I can quick send off a text and say, I'm in a movie right now. I'll call you later.
It's weird. You and I are similar on cell phones. That's weird. Okay. It's just, maybe it's an age thing. I don't know. I don't want to become one of those people glued to their phones. I guess that's part of what it is. But not that I'm saying any of you are, or that you don't use it in moderation. Maybe,
The point I'm making, though, about these games in particular is the addiction level. And
Like
for
Candy
this,
Crush.
yeah, exactly. And for this, what they're looking for is to have you tied into, again, it's another one of those, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You won't own this game on your desktop. You must log in and you must play through them. And if you don't like the content too damn bad, we're changing it. Pray I don't change it any further.
Here's what drives me
And
crazy.
you're going to start paying us every month to start playing it. They say free to play, but give it time. They will find ways to reach into your wallet.
What were some of their most popular games? The Batman Arkham Knight trilogy.
Right.
Hogwarts Legacy, big hit last year.
Yep.
You probably heard of it, right? Single player game. What else? I don't know if this was popular. They made a Mad Max game as well at some point too, which got a lot of critical acclaim. I don't know how well it did in sales, but the point is they don't want to do these single player experiences. They want to be reaching their hand into your wallet every
just
day.
it. It's not single to them. It's not single player experiences. It's single sale experiences. They don't want to sell it to you, and then that's all the money they get out of you. They want some sort of subscription service from you.
And I'm not going to say live service games could never work. I've never gotten into them myself. I think World of Warcraft would be considered a live service game, right?
I suppose I would even say
yeah.
like Star Trek Online might be considered that as well. But again, and the article did mention this, there is the free to play concept. You can play them free to play. But they do want to try to entice you to spend the money or, whatever to just, well, actually, by mentioning Star Trek Online is a really bad example. Right now, they're being bought up by a new company right now because they haven't been monetizing it very well. So we'll see how that changes in the future. But most other games besides Star Trek Online probably, much better at finding ways.
What's it going to cost you? $20 a week to get more red shirts to stick in your crew after they get killed on the planet? I'm kidding.
I have no idea. A lot of the people in the community are saying there's only so much they can change. There's a lot of it that's really hardwired without like scrapping it and starting a whole new game. We can't really see them, changing it that much. But I don't want to get too far in the weeds and off on a tangent, but there are a lot of people in the community that are playing free to play on Star Trek Online going, I would be willing to pay if, this, and this, and I knew that I could get that shipped for this amount of money or whatever it is. If you're going to make something available, make it available. Don't turn it into gambling. We're talking about loot boxes where you could spend thousands of dollars and not get the doodah. Whereas most places that have some sort of loot box say, I don't remember which game it was that this YouTuber I was listening to said, if you open up loot boxes, you have a thing that shows you like how many you've opened. And if you don't find the doodah that you were looking for, by the time you open this box, you will get it automatically because, it's like a guarantee. So you could basically budget, okay, maybe I'm going to spend, I don't know, $20 to get this ship in game. Okay, it's worth it to me. I'll do that. And if I get it for less, so much the better. Most players can get behind that. But the idea that we have no idea what the chances are of finding this thing and there's no guarantee we'll ever get the thing, people aren't going to shell out a single dollar for that. And that's why Star Trek Online isn't making a whole lot. So there is a way to meet your audience in the middle and monetize your thing. I've always said things are only, and this is economics 101, things are only worth what someone is willing to pay for them. And if your audience tells you, I would be willing to pay for this, well, take them at their word, make that available to them for that, But this is insidious, and this is a bad timing for them too. This is right after they put out Kill the Justice League that nobody liked, that lost them a ton of money, and we're going, and the next game we're going to have you pay through the nose for on a monthly basis. I'm exaggerating, but that's essentially what this boils down to. That's just friggin' brilliant.
I just realized, too, they have the Game of Thrones license. Why have they been sitting on that game-wise? I mean, I don't know if it'd be the moneymaker was years ago, but I think it'd still make money if they made a game set in that universe.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Jesse Guajardo says he played World of Warships, World of Tanks, and he likes the fact that they donate to a military charity. Jesse, do you know how much of the money you give to them actually goes to that charity? You might want to look into it. It's entirely possible that they give a sizable amount. I don't know, but generally, when they tell you a portion of what you give them goes to charity, it's pittance. It's a scam.
Well,
generally,
maybe they're on the up and up, maybe they're not. We don't know. But
yeah. But I would encourage you to look into it and not just buy into it because it sounds like a good thing.
Okay. This is a depressing night of stories.
I would even argue, if that's why you're playing the game, then take all the money that you put into the game and donate it directly to that museum.
Okay.
Yeah, none because I don't play premium gameplay. Exactly. But like I say, feel free to take what you would give to that game and donate it to the charity. That's always the best way.
You know what else you can do too? A lot of local areas, you might have a military museum in the area, and of course you can go into the museum, and I think the money from that goes to the military charities.
I was surprised.
And I was to a really nice one recently. Yeah, it might be a good day excursion for you. You could
go several years ago. Netter and I
playing on an aircraft carrier.
Netter and I met up with some of the friends we made in Metropolis, Illinois. Here in the Chicago area, we went to a museum. I can't remember the name of the museum off the top of my head, but it's essentially an art museum, but all the art is done by veterans. Usually veterans that are kind of working through some post-traumatic stress issues. Some very, very powerful works. Like as you walk into the foyer of the museum, the entire ceiling is an exhibit and I don't know who the artist was, but it's literally just dog tags hanging from the ceiling.
Wow.
Dog tags of, service people that didn't come home. That's pretty powerful stuff, So absolutely feel free to.
It's actually called the National Veterans Art Museum.
National Veterans Art Museum. Yeah, that makes sense. That is a logical title for it. Here in Chicago, these. You find something like that, feel free to donate directly. And you know what? Be smart about it. If you feel strongly enough about it, maybe donate anonymously. Don't take the tax write-off. Don't let Uncle Sam know what you're putting your money to. There might be a reason for that someday. Just saying. Just remember, every time you get a tax deduction, Uncle Sam is keeping records on you.
They keep records on everything.
They decide that you've given to something that they don't agree with. You're suddenly a right-wing extremist.
Wow. And
you're on a watch list. Don't believe me? I've talked to too many people this has actually happened to. Just saying.
By the way, Pop Culture Mechanic, welcome. Don't know if I've seen you here before, but you're welcome here anyway.
Welcome. Yeah, right. You came in just as I was getting spicy and political, which we don't normally do here.
Yes. Anyway, Hollywood Contraction. This one I feel the worst about.
It's an interesting.
I actually feel for these more so than even the actors and the big wigs. These are I don't want to say they're the smaller people because they're not. Movies wouldn't happen without them.
They're the least visible.
They're like the lifeblood. They're like the lifeblood of the industry, and I feel
the honest fact is movies could not happen without these people. But they're the ones that. They're the ones you see in the credits when you have lists of all the people that contributed that you're probably not even reading, but they're all the ones that contribute that you don't realize or think about when you're watching the movie itself.
And I'll go ahead and read from this article. The Unity Rally on Sunday that was meant to fire up crew members for the IATSE and Teamsters Local 399 begin negotiations with Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers served two important goals. It reminded below-the-line workers that union leaders will be dogged in their fight for better benefits and pension for members and made it clear they'll be ready to shut it down fucking day one if the talks don't go their way.
That's an exact quote, by the way, everyone.
I
Because
don't
he doesn't
typically,
usually use that kind of language.
but no matter how many times Local 399's Lindsay Doherty dropped an F-bomb or the crowd shouted, "Many crafts, one fight," there was no mention of the real elephant in the room or parking lot, namely how many or few crew members are actually working these days because of accelerated contraction in Hollywood. Now, yeah, on stage it was all talk about this is how solidarity looks and how the studios are quote unquote white collar crime syndicates. But away from the featured speakers and the sounds of Public Enemy's Fight the Power blasting from the loudspeakers, local reps privately lamented about how their members were bombarding their offices with desperate calls about lack of employment. The wave of series cancellations, coupled with the serious belt tightening and a virtually non existent pilot season, has led to fewer and fewer below the line jobs for below the line workers. Yeah, there's been TV was terrible this season. Like there barely any pilots.
You had 2 other strikes that kept the entire industry from progressing at all, making anything. And that meant everybody was out of work. You see this, the writers go on strike, so the actors go on strike. The actors go on strike, so the writers go on strike. Well, they might friggin' just as well, right? On the one hand, they're throwing their support in the collective bargaining pot, to give, we work together to get what we want. But at the same time, what the hell else are you going to do? Because you're not getting any work if those people aren't working. Nothing's happening. Well, these people are all in the same situation. If no movies being made, I am not, on set building sets or making lunches for you or, sweeping up after you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just I don't know. I think I'm feeling for these types the most of all, don't you think?
Yeah. And the other thing that people forget is for most industries, even during the lockdowns, I'm not going to say most. I don't know what the stats are. I can only speak for myself, for my wife, a lot of others. If you ended up out of work because there were lockdowns, for example, your company had to close, whatever, at the bare minimum, if the company wasn't keeping you alive because they were planning on having you back, if they laid you off, you could at least go on unemployment for 6 months or whatever, until something else comes along. And, frankly, Netter and I didn't miss any pay because of that. God bless, wonderful, thank you. But not everyone's in that circumstance. There are people that can't, file for unemployment because they were independent contractors in the first place, right? Yeah. They literally work for themselves, or the Teamsters or whatever. You don't work, you don't make money. That's all there is to it. Who are you going to go after? The best thing you can do is say, look, if I'm not going to make any money because you've done this, that, and the other, decide, you're going to have to keep me alive until there is a job for me, and whether you think that's reasonable or not, that's part of collective bargaining. You have a right to say, I can't continue in this industry unless I get certain considerations. You don't want to meet that? Okay, I'm leaving. But then everyone in your industry goes, no, wait a minute. Before you leave, we're saying the same thing. We'll all leave if you can't accommodate us.
Yeah.
And then nothing happens.
That makes sense. But I guess these terms are up at different points in time. Is that right?
Yeah. So I heard an interesting industry commentary about this, that they purposely had separated all these different areas of the industry for exactly that reason. They wanted to, okay, it won't be so bad if their contract is up and we just have to deal with them. We're not dealing with everybody. Not thinking through the fact that, well, you're really going to be dealing with all of them at all times anyway. So all you've done is created 3 opportunities a year for different segments of your industry to say, we're going on strike. Maybe it's not every year. I'm sorry, I take that back, because a lot of these contracts are like 2-3 years out. So they don't always fall directly like that. But this time around, you've had 3 different, segments of this industry within a year negotiating contracts. And what happened last year. It's going to happen this year. I predicted this at the beginning of the year. You guys remember it, and I've mentioned it a couple other times. August 1st is when the IATSE and Teamsters contract is up. And August 1st is the day they will start another strike. So anything that we've been talking about, The Mandalorian or the Rey movie or anything else that's supposed to be coming out, they're trying to rush them, and they're not going to be able to get them done. Well, look, you know what happens when you rush a project. It comes out half-assed. And with Disney, it comes out less than a quarter-assed. And
for twice the money.
Yeah, for 2, 3, 4 times the money. Well, in that regard, I could say, okay, what is the old saying in business? You can have it fast, you can have it cheap, or you can have it good. Pick 2. You can't have all 3, right? Because if you're gonna pay me less, I'm gonna take longer. If I take longer, it might be good, but if you're going to push me to do it fast, it might not be as good. There's a trade-off is the point. And there's no way. There is no way that they're not going to have overruns on budget. And then you're going to have a bunch of people saying, you're working me too hard. I'm going to go on strike because I don't care how much money you're paying me. It's going to be just like those hotel workers we were talking about a little while ago. You're overworking me, underpaying me, screw you.
I do want to bring up, though, in this, that there's a human story here. The article goes on later on, take Joseph Bogdano, a 35-year-old assistant cameraman who only worked 47 days total in 2023. And that was with me fully networking, routinely hitting everybody up that I know, contacting producers that I know. You just couldn't find work, he tells Deadline. And when you reach out to people who were senior to you, who had been in the industry longer, who you knew were the better connected, and they were saying they weren't working.
Yep.
That was just the first for me. I've never reached out to all my colleagues and heard all of them say, with maybe one exception, that they weren't working simultaneously. In 2023, it felt like the industry ceased to exist and the strikes began. And so that, of course, slowed things down further for some people. But for me, I didn't really notice a difference. It just continued to be what it felt like a 0 year.
Now, I'm going to say something that I am not hearing on any of the other channels. This is a little bit of speculation on my part, but what kind of people are we talking about here? We're talking about, construction workers. We're talking about, drivers. We're talking about, cooks, people that sweep up, and stuff like that.
People that build sets, people that work the cameras.
Manual work. Some of these people will leave this industry, and their skills are transferable. They could go into construction. They can go into, restaurant work. They can go into all kinds of stuff that is tangentially related to what they do. So when this article says Hollywood contraction, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. People will leave this industry if they can't get steady, regular work. Now, that's without going off on a big tangent here. How much work is there in construction these days? How many people are buying houses? We can get into the whole housing market right now, and that's probably not something we want to get into, but there is that element of it. So, bottom line, the U.S. entertainment industry is not doing good, and it's really their own fault. You can blame the ESG. You could blame bad business management. You could certainly blame lack of talent, which is probably related to the first two. But whatever it is, we're running into people aren't going to the movies anymore. People aren't. Their money. What's the old saying? The problem with socialism is you run out of other people's money. Well, yes. The same is true with business.
So
if you run out of other people's money, you go bankrupt, whether that's a government or a business.
I did want to bring up this last quote in the article, though. I do know what you're saying, how some skills are transferable, but assistant cameraman, that
That's a
might be
good
more
point, yeah.
difficult. And he
Sure.
goes on to say, I've considered going to medical school, to be honest. It's a really serious thing to think about at 35, he tells Deadline. There are plenty of people who will say you can absolutely go to medical school at 35. There's no discrimination. You're perfectly capable of becoming a doctor and having a career still, but it's such a huge commitment. And when you already have bottomed out your savings, the idea of taking on student loans like that, it's hard for me to think that I would forever put away creative endeavors. I've worked to entertain my whole life. I just want to make films. Please, sir, do not take out loans for medical school, especially when
Exactly.
you have no money saved. Please do not do this.
That's not the way to
There
go.
are
What-
people, especially if you find out medical school is not for you and you flunk out, you're in the hole for a lot of money.
No,
Please do
actually,
not do
I
this.
would argue there's a better option for you. Go
Mhm.
go and become an EMT. Go become an EMT,
Fine.
then look into getting into nursing.
Mhm.
Now is the perfect time for that.
Yeah.
Much
That's-
easier. There are ways that you can get some financial assistance that you won't have to pay back. That is a good
Do
option.
that. You could join firefighters using EMTs too, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so,
That's another great option. But here's the thing. The point is, yeah, if your skill isn't transferable, just like this guy, and I knew it. People are thinking of getting out of the industry. Yes, this industry is dying. Now, there's nothing that says a cameraman can't leave, go and do something else, and then 20 years from now, when Warner Brothers and Disney and whatnot either go bankrupt or get their heads out of their collective asses, they won't start doing well again and start hiring again. And if you want to come back, you can come back. But you got to make those decisions for yourself. And these companies need to understand that they can't wait for you anymore. They will leave you. In the short term, you're going to see how it hurts when they go on strike. But if they leave and don't come back, then you're screwed. It's like they're on strike forever.
Guess the long and the short of it is, though, is that they're going on strike, but they haven't been working. You know?
Right. What if they're not? That's the worst situation for a company to be in. When your workers have been out of work and they say they're going on strike, they have nothing to lose.
And being a good assistant cameraman, knowing how to build sets, these are very skilled jobs.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of experience, a lot of on-the-job training, sometimes even education. People get educated on this stuff. So you're losing professionals here. And
well, a lot of
think
this,
they're taking them for granted because they're not.
And a lot of the ESG hires have been. We've already started to see the quality start to drop because of that. Yeah. People are saying, "I won't work for this company anymore," and they're leaving, and the quality of work suffers. Well, no big surprise, right?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one, though. Teamsters warn of another
directly related, yeah.
Yeah, so we're probably going to spend as much time on this, but go ahead and post this next one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I feel bad for them all, though. These are people. Trust me, they're probably not even all that political. They're just you're trying to earn a paycheck.
In fact, it's interesting because you hear about, and I've said this too from people that I've met that have worked on TV shows and whatnot. There's more conservatives in Hollywood than you realize.
Right.
Some of them you'd be surprised to find out are, some of the co-stars on the shows you watch and whatnot. But a lot of them are in this group. They are not tied to these at least politically, philosophically to the ESG mentality of these companies. They're just looking to make a living for themselves and their families. They don't care about the politics of the company they're working for, So when you're like, well, ESG, this is what happens to these companies. They deserve it. Well, these are the guys that are suffering. I am tempering that with saying, but you know what? Maybe you should kind of get out of this business. Maybe this is not where you want to be. Yeah. If this is what you're finding yourself in. And I'm saying this as someone who has been at companies and gone, you know what? I'll take a pay cut to go anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. But this latest one, IATSC and Teamsters warn of a Hollywood strike at massive rally. Put your helmets on. Hollywood union leaders warned of a possibility of another strike this summer if the studios cannot reach a deal before crew contracts expire on July 31st. Speaking to a rally of more than 2,000 crew members on Sunday at Woodley Park in Encino, Sean O'Brien, the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, said the unions should commit to withhold their labor and not grant an extension if a deal is not agreed by the deadline. We are not afraid to strike, O'Brien said. If these greedy corporations, whether it's Amazon, Netflix, Sony, Disney, if they choose not to reward our members, they are putting themselves on strike. We will put them on their backs, on their knees, begging for mercy. Negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers are set to begin Monday. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Teamsters, and Hollywood Basic Crafts will join bargain health and pension benefits. Over the next few months, IATSC and Teamsters and Basic Crafts will then bargain their separate agreements with the hope of having the deals ratified by the deadline. It goes on later in the article to say, this is from later, O'Brien, who built a national profile last year with a threat to strike at UPS, was more combative. We have a message for the white-collar crime syndicates known as the studios, he said. When you fuck with our Teamsters or any other union, it's a full contact sport. Put your helmets on and buckle your chin straps. 13 ISTA-SE locals work under the basic agreement, including the International Cinematographers Guild and the Motion Picture Editors Guild. Oh, this includes the editors too, doesn't it?
I had not considered that. The editors did not go on strike with the writers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the people.
Well, excuse me, I take that back. They have indirectly have been on strike with the writers, but their contract was not up at the same time. Okay,
they've been working. I've seen some of the movie links. I'm sorry, I'm being catty.
Well, again, the editors. That's another one where they're just doing what they're told.
Nolan wanted Oppenheimer to be 6 hours long. I did my best. That's
I know, right.
Another 23 locals around the country work under the parallel contract called the Area Standards Agreement. Jackie Martinez, a costumer, not customer, costumer, said that she was worried that AI could be used to take away jobs. AI is definitely a threat, she said. Producers, I feel, are also trying to reduce our crew members in our departments. That's how they're trying to save money, using less of us. Another costumer, Caitlin Doolittle, said that AI also threatens to change the way her job is done. The second you start automatically generating bodies, they already have clothes on them, she said. What am I supposed to do? One of my favorite parts of this job is interacting with background actors and creating individual characters to create texture and scenes. Having a computer generated is not that. Oh, that's interesting. So she would work with the background actors to, this is what you're doing here. And, I don't know. It's, I don't know. The upcoming talks were on the mind of many members during a week before the Oscars, when Hollywood was busy celebrating the crafts at events that included a triple header of Sunday with the American Cinema Editors Eddie Awards, American Society of Cinematographers ASC Awards, and Motion Picture Sound Editors Golden Reel Awards. So this is all these other things that they get the awards for, the Oscars. I'm assuming this includes them too, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't know.
The concern about the ISTSC contract talks was evident at the AC Eddies. Last year was an extraordinarily difficult year for our entire industry. Editors and post-production are not immune at all, said Kevin Tent, president of ACE, in opening Sunday ceremony. 2023 hurt badly, and 2024 is off to a tepid start. It feels like there's an industry that desires to avoid repeating 2023 and get back to doing what we do best. And this year's negotiations are expected to focus on wage increases and quality of life issues surrounding the hours worked on set, including meal penalties and turnaround times. What is a meal penalty?
I have no idea.
You better not eat that hot dog on our time.
Well, it's probably closer than we realize. I don't know if you caught this, but Pop Culture Mechanics said, being in the trade myself, I see there is a shortage already of skilled trade workers. Yeah, that does not surprise me even a little.
These are skilled jobs. They're not.
By the way, please go subscribe to Pop Culture Mechanic. he it turns out that I thought I was subscribed to him, and I wasn't. So again, always double check and make sure that you are subscribed to the people that you think you're subscribed to. He was featured on Ryan Roger Athey's show about a year ago. I remember that, and I don't know how long you've been here, Pop Culture Mechanic, but at the top of the show, we were talking about some topics you probably would be interested. We were talking manga, anime, obviously because of the In Memoriam segment. You, Boomer, you brought up the what are those girls? The Solar Girls. What are they? That you said you like Jupiter.
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon. Yeah. He just did a stream about that. Just recently, so
I'll check that out. I'm curious. I
see. This is how bad I am about that stuff.
I didn't watch season 6 though. I never got around to watching season 6 of Sailor Moon because they would never air that over here back in the day. Because the other Sailor Scouts, when they weren't Sailor Scouts, they'd be a boy band during the day.
Oh my gosh!
I don't want to know.
This is not sound like Gem and the Holograms or something. I'm just
except it was a boy group and not a girl group during the day. It's like
I mean, whatever, right?
Change sex, I guess. I don't know. Just I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Pop Culture Mechanic. Oh well, thanks very much. You're checking. I know we're happy to have you and anyone else here. Since Corner, welcome. I didn't say hi to you already. South Park. Oh yeah, they took my job. Yeah, they did a episode recently of South Park where, I think the guy busted something on the oven, so he calls a handyman, and the handyman starts charging him more money, and he says, "We're in demand. I can start charging more money, and I have to put you on the reserve." And basically, all of the white collar jobs were useless, and all the handymen were making boko bucks because nobody knew how to do basic things anymore.
That's honestly that's not even that is absolutely true, and that's kind of always been the case. This is why I am constantly telling people, don't believe the bullshit. You don't have to go to college to be successful in life. Go into the trades. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you can work a trade that is transferable, you can always work for yourself. Right? You can start your own business if you have to. You can be a handyman. You could be. I know a guy who was a mechanic working for a particular shop. He left there because of problems or whatever, and he just started putting out his shingle and telling people, "I will come to your house and fix your car." And that's what he would do. Instead of having a shop, he would just go and fix people's cars in front of their houses.
That's kind of convenient.
Yes, and he started a whole business doing it. So yeah, don't be afraid to, if these companies are janking you around and you're in the trades, go work for yourself. That is the power you have.
Yes. So hopefully the strike will get resolved soon and productions will start up and maybe start paying attention to these people and paying them money instead of your consulting firms. ESG. This is the lifeblood of the industry here.
Absolutely.
All right. We have Dakota Johnson in the news again.
Yeah, this is interesting. I have some thoughts. Maybe not the kind you might think I would have, but we'll get into
any. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, we got to get everyone up to speed first.
I was going to say any excuse to put her picture. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I haven't watched I refuse to watch those 50 Shades movies, but.
Well, anyway. If you ever do, just remember, some of that fur is CG.
I actually. Anyway, let's keep talking. Okay. What a web Dakota Johnson is weaving.
I see what
Not
they
that
did
she's
there.
wrong. The Madam Web actress said in a Bustle cover story that while it's difficult to get indie films made, large studios are relying on numbers and algorithms for big budget films. In short, art shouldn't have to be monitored so closely, according to Johnson, and that's what happened with Madam Web. It gets it's so hard to get movies made, and in these big movies that get made, and it's even starting to happen with the little ones, which is what's really freaking me out. Decisions are being made by committees. Johnson said art does not do well when it's made by committee. The actress and Tea Time producer continued, films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. My feeling has been for a long time that audiences are extremely smart, and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audiences will always be able to sniff out bullshit. Even if films start to be made with AI, humans aren't going to fucking want to see those. As for leading superhero movie Madam Web, Johnson admits that she does understand why the film has been ripped to shred by critics. It was a real learning experience, and of course, it's not nice to be part of something that's ripped to shreds. But I can't say that I don't understand, Johnson said. I had never done anything like it before. I probably will never do anything like it again because I don't make sense in that world, and I know that now. She added, of the committee behind Madam Web, that's why I have my own company, Tea Time. In a movie like that, I have no say about anything. Following Madam Web, Johnson returned to her indie filmmaking space with Sundance selected film Daddy-O. I went directly from Madam Web to Daddy-O, and that was my salvation, Johnson said. We shot that in 16 days, and my company made it. So that means that I was very hands-on. It was amazing. Sean Penn was amazing. He was so contained. It was really like a play. We would shoot 20 pages a day. Johnson isn't the only actor opening up about working with committees behind major superhero tentpole films. Marvel staple Chris Evans, who formerly played Captain America in the franchise, explained during an Emerald City Comic-Con panel that there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and when it comes to crafting superhero movies, there are these big, giant movies. There are lots of cooks in the kitchen, but the empirical evidence is in. They are not easy to make, Evans said. If it was easier, there would be a lot more good ones. The actor added, "I'm not throwing shade. I've been part of a few that missed. It happens. Making a movie is tough. More cooks in the kitchen doesn't make it easier." Okay. I think Johnson made more sense in this thing than Chris Evans. But go ahead. What are your thoughts?
You know, if you take what she says at face value, I pretty much agree with her. She's absolutely right. And she doesn't go any further to give attributions that would cause you to go, okay, yeah, no, you're going down the wrong course here. She's absolutely right. If you want a good movie, right, let the creatives do it. And if you don't like their movies, you shouldn't be working with them in the first place. Whenever you get corporate people with whatever their directives are, they end up ruining it, right? Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that George Lucas had said. If I had listened to, X, Y, and Z and done what they said, Star Wars would have been crap, And that's true of a lot of things. It's also why you see so many very successful independent films, ones that the big studios wouldn't take a chance on. And there's that whole corporate mentality, right? A great example. After Star Wars, everyone wanted to make their version of Star Wars, and the guys at Paramount were like, "Well, what do we have that's like Star Wars?" "Well, we got this Star Trek." "Okay, well, yeah, let's do that." Well, then they ended up with something that was really a lot more like 2001: A Space Odyssey and not very Star Wars, Mm-hmm. So that's why Mopic was. Fans today have mixed reviews on that to this day, right? You gotta. Yeah. When you have, and then there's the elements of and we want to be able to sell toys. Oh, okay, so we got to find some way to include some obvious placement of a character or an element or something that we can monetize, right? And that oftentimes kind of throws the story off too. But now we live in the ESG era where now it's not just that, but we also have to make sure that we have a female lesbian person of color in a wheelchair in a prominent role here as well. So let's get rid of that white male and let's get rid of that white female. and go with that. Oh no, wait a minute. That paraplegic person of color lesbian, she's too attractive. We need to ugly her up too. So
That's happened to, yeah. I remember with Rose Tico. Remember that?
Yeah.
Retran, how they put her in a potato.
Well, what about this? We're talking about Madam Web here. What about that pretty blonde girl that they put in the glasses and the frumpy outfit?
Sydney Sweeney, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, is that her name?
I think that's her name. Yeah, she's been getting a lot of attention. But
well, yeah, she's been getting a lot of attention outside of this movie because whenever she shows up at a red carpet or something, it's like, hello there, You
think a Dakota Johnson could be in a David Lynch movie? That's my last question for you.
Yes. I will not elaborate on that too much, though.
Okay.
let's just say that just looking at this picture of her, she seems like the kind of woman that that David Lynch would probably like to work with.
Yes. I remember a woman in the season 3 premiere who was on Californication with David Duchovny. She was in the premiere. I know. Anyway, We'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yep.
Anyway.
No spoilers.
Hasbro. Wait, what's this? Oh, this might interest you. Hasbro over in Malaysia is getting 50% off on vintage collection online for the past few days. Troy, you gotta get a currency exchange.
Oh yeah, let me real quick check my contact over there.
This has kind of been a downer night of news. I know I had to talk about Sweet.
I have seen a lot of people in the toy community that have been saying that they're very surprised at some of the figures that have been showing up in availability overseas. Sometimes pre-orders that are being released early over there. Sometimes older figures that are suddenly hitting the market again. So I kind of do feel like something's going on. I'm not entirely sure what. But once I have a better grasp on it, maybe we'll talk about it either on my stream or if I find a news article about it over here.
So let's see here. All right. You ready? For the next one. Oh, deleted scenes is here. Any slaps happen tonight?
Yeah, anything that we're going to be talking about for the next 3 weeks.
Any obnoxious speeches
that has nothing to do with actual entertainment or awards.
And any obnoxious self-grandizing speeches about how bad.
Almost certainly there are. Yes.
All right, Karate Kid casts Cruel Summer star Sadie Stanley as romantic lead. Okay, there'll be a romantic lead in the new Karate Kid movie. Like boy-girl romance? What?
Yeah, why not?
It's weird, isn't it?
It's wait a minute. We don't know. She might end up being a lesbian. Doesn't necessarily mean she's going to be a romantic lead for the main character.
Oh my word!
I'm joking. Let's assume.
Do you remember on Cobra Kai when he says, "Hey, you want to join this all boys group?" And she says, and the girl says, I'm a sexual. Well, he's an asexual too. Like he doesn't. I love Johnny Lawrence.
I do too. Half the time he says stuff that most of us are thinking.
He's just. Wait a minute, dude, gender what or something? Are you pranking me when he said that?
Yeah, exactly. Now you're just making stuff up.
Oh man. Okay, the actress will play the romantic lead opposite Ben Wong, the American-born Chinese actor who is top-lining the feature and who nabbed the part after global search. The cast also includes Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, who are reprising their iconic characters to continue the cinematic mythology of the previous movies. New to the cast is Joshua Jackson. Plot details are being kept under the doji, but it is known that the new installment will bring the story to East Coast and focus on a teen from China, Wong, who, as per Karate Kid lore, finds strength and direction via martial arts and a tough but wise mentor or two. Character details are not being revealed, but Stanley will play the daughter of Jackson's character. See, this is interesting to me because this is not going to be East Coast instead of West Coast, right? This will feature a teen coming over from China, so he's going to have that whole fish out of water thing by being someone from another country, right?
Right.
I think they did the opposite in the other Karate Kid remake that had Will Smith's kid in it, where he was an American being over in China.
In China, exactly.
I'm kind of curious how Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan are going to feature into this because, of course, Daniel LaRusso is based out in California, unless maybe he decided to move back to New Jersey.
He flees California for a number of reasons. I could see that, yeah.
And starts a car dealership.
And I'm sure, remember, he came from the East Coast.
He came from the East Coast, came from New Jersey, so maybe he'd be out there for a reason.
He's probably got family there or something. Yeah, absolutely. But it does look like what they're doing is they're tying together what would otherwise have been two completely disparate parts of the Karate Kid story, I suppose. Yeah. There was no connection between Jackie Chan's Karate Kid and the rest of the franchise. But it wasn't a straight up remake. They didn't reuse character names or anything like that. And I think that's a big part of what they looked at. And they're like, there's nothing that says these can't take place in the same world. And in fact, they have decided they do. And I'm kind of curious to see how they, go forward. If they got a good story, I'll be all behind that,
Maybe if you'd see cameos in this movie, like Miguel would have a cameo or something, right? Or something like that. I don't know.
I would be surprised if there isn't at least references to them because that
Cobra
is
Kai,
part. Yeah, that is part of Daniel's backstory,
I don't know. We'll keep our fingers crossed on this one, but I'm still waiting for that final season of Cobra Kai.
Don't count on me to watch it first week. I'm waiting until I hear from some of the people that I respect to tell me if it's worth seeing or not before I waste my money on it.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the final season of Cobra Kai. Yeah, because I'm gonna.
Oh no! I'm already in on
yeah, because
final season of Cobra Kai is one of those ones that's been held up by the strikes, and if they don't already have stuff in the can, they're going to be held up with the next strike in August too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind spending more time in this universe, and
same here.
This could work. We'll see. Okay, we'll see. Next up, what are we doing next? Oh, and now our final story of the night. Oh no.
Yeah.
This is a long one. I had to abbreviate some of it. Okay, so we're not going to read the whole thing, but we've been following, of course, the Russ case. And Russ Movie Armor found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, acquitted of evidence tampering. Okay. Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the Rust film armorer, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter Wednesday in a New Mexico trial stemming from the 2021 on-set fatal shooting. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was killed by a live round of ammunition fired from a prop gun that was held by actor Alec Baldwin. Gutierrez Reed, who was responsible for firearm safety and storage on the movie's sets, was acquitted of a separate charge of evidence tampering, which was brought after prosecutors alleged that she had transferred a small bag of cocaine to someone else after a police interview on the day of shooting on October 21st, 2021. Jurors deliberated for nearly 3 hours Wednesday before reaching a decision. The 26-year-old, who did not take the stand in her defense during the trial in Santa Fe, did not show any emotion while the verdict was read. She was then taken into custody. The involuntary manslaughter charge carries up to 18 months in prison and a $5,000 fine. The judge did not set a sentencing date. Gutierrez Reed is the first person to stand trial in a case that highlighted the movie industry's safety concerns, and this specific sets violations of them. Attorneys represented Hutchins' parents and sister were satisfied with the jury's verdict, the attorney said in a release. We look forward to the justice system continuing to make sure that everyone else who is responsible for Helena's death is required to face legal consequences for their actions, the release reads. Prosecutors argue Gutierrez Reed repeatedly violated safety protocol on set and acted negligently and without caution in performing her duties as armorer, and that her actions ultimately led to Hutchins' death. That is not a case where Hannah Gutierrez made one mistake, and that one mistake was accidentally putting a live round into that gun. That was not this case is about, Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey said during closing arguments Wednesday. This case is about constant, never-ending safety failures that resulted in the death of a human being and nearly killed another, she added. The film's director was also injured in the shooting. Assistant film director David Halls admitted during the trial that he was negligent in checking the gun and did not properly look through all the rounds in the gun's chamber when Gutierrez Reed presented it to him. She opened up the latch to the revolver. I recalled seeing 3 to 4, what I believe were dummy rounds. Halls testified. He later added, I don't recall her fully rotating the cylinder. Halls yelled, cold gun, before the weapon was handed to Baldwin, a remark meant to indicate the firearm did not have live rounds. According to a court document, Halls took a plea deal in 2023 for his role in the shooting, pleading no contest to one count of negligent use of a deadly weapon. I was negligent in checking the gun properly, Halls told the court. Halls was sentenced to 6 months of unsupervised probation, a $500 fine, had to participate in a firearm safety class, complete 24 hours of community service, and not use drugs or alcohol. In her closing arguments, Morrissey said there was no evidence of someone else, no evidence someone else was to blame for the shooting. Added Gutierrez Reed was the autonomous decision maker with regard to gun safety on set. Alec Baldwin's conduct and his lack of gun safety on that day is something that he's going to have to answer for. Not with you and not today, the prosecutor told jurors Wednesday. That will be another jury with another jury on another day. What do we think? Is this going to hit on Baldwin or?
I think this is laying the groundwork for Gutierrez to be the scapegoat. That's what I think. I did not watch the entire case. I didn't shepherdize it like I would with some of the other cases that I've been following, but I did manage to see a good deal of the closing arguments. If you can see the closing arguments, you should, and the closing arguments are any good, you should be able to kind of figure out the rest of the case from that. And this idea of what was it she was charged with? It was
involuntary manslaughter.
Involuntary manslaughter, and it's based on criminal negligence. I have a real problem with the very concept of criminal negligence. For any to be considered any sort of criminal act, there needs to be the mens rea. You need to intend to commit a crime for it to be, here's an example of foreseeable criminal negligence. Getting behind the wheel when you're drunk. Okay. You have a obvious knowledge that you are impaired and that someone could die. In fact, it's likely that something bad will happen if you get behind the wheel. That is criminal negligence. But let's break down what actually happened with this case. Okay. You can say that she had live rounds on the set and she shouldn't have done. Fine, whatever. The gun, from what we understand, was used outside of shooting time, no pun intended, for target practice, okay, with live rounds. And a lot of people that were on the crew participated in that. Fine. So this is how this happened, right? But a big part of the what I would consider to be extenuating circumstances on this, here's a number of them. For one thing, what they forget to point out is that she was actually hired to do two completely different jobs. She was the armorer, and I forget what the other job, that responsibility she had. There was a lot of cost cutting that went into this. A lot of cheaping out. Even by looking at the fact that she was hired to be the armorer in the first place, she did not have experience as an armorer prior to this movie. Okay? She's 26 years old. So that they were going for cheap. And I always say, you get what you pay for. You go for cheap, let's put it this way. if you are buying brakes for your car, do you want to get the best, ceramic brake discs with, good hydraulics and everything brand new? Or are you going to get all the shabby, rusted, I don't give a crap secondary, and I don't care if they're fucking made of cotton. Let's just get it done cheap. No, because I don't care how quickly your car goes from 0 to 60. What's important is how quickly it goes from 60 to 0, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. Do you care about safety? Then maybe you want to make sure you get the best. Okay, so let's put that aside. What we've also forgotten was this was during very specific COVID restrictions. She was not allowed to be on set at the time of filming. She is being held responsible for something that she had no direct control over. That's a very, very important point that I feel that her defense did not stress strongly enough. Okay? There's also the fact that in the closing, Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey, I have some very strong opinions about this woman that I don't want to see next Tuesday. She claims that as the armor, she should have had a more active role in telling people what they should have done. So in other words, when the assistant director, said cold gun and shouldn't have and didn't double check and she's trying to claim that it was, even though he took responsibility for that, it was still Gutierrez who should have been there, pointing at him, which again, remember, she couldn't be there to do that. Also, imagine this 26-year-old girl trying to tell Alec Baldwin to fucking do anything. He'd tell her, get out of my face, kid. Because that's just the kind of asshole
Remember, he was yelling about having the rounds, these should be ready, blah, blah. Remember that?
Yeah. Faster. Double time is what he's been recorded as saying. And now I know this from the testimony, not from any kind of knowledge that I have about how things are done on shooting sets. Okay, I'm just going by the testimony and the closing arguments. Apparently, part of the protocols anytime you use a gun in a movie is you are never supposed to point that gun at anyone, whether it's got a blank, whether it's a cold gun, whether there's nothing in it, whether it's got live, nothing. You never point, because you never have to in a movie, right?
Oh.
If it's target practice, you obviously have to point it at the target, and you're probably going to be using live rounds. In a movie, you're going to be using blanks, and there is no reason to point the gun at somebody. With camera angles, and especially with editing, right? The scene, the lineup of the scene is you see the guy pointing the gun, but you're looking towards him. He's not even pointing at the camera, but you assume he's pointing it at the person that he's going to shoot, right? And then you cut to over his shoulder, seeing that person, but you don't see the gun in the shot, right? You never point the gun at anybody. There's never a reason to. This is how Brandon Lee got killed. Okay? Yep. So apparently that's one of the rules. And also, the script writer gave testimony that the scene that was being shot at the time did not even involve him pulling the trigger. There was no reason for him to pull the trigger.
Maybe he wanted to do an impromptu shooting for fun. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. That has been the speculation all along, that he was upset and he thought there was a blank in it and he wanted to scare the crap out of her. Well, he did for a short period of time until she was dead. But I do believe that and consider the ramifications of what has just happened now. She is now going to spend more time in prison. She's already in prison, right? She's going to spend more time in prison, right? There's going to be some fines. She's probably going to be sued in a civil case, okay? Not to mention that manslaughter, she is never going to be able to work with guns ever again. She will never legally be able to own a gun again. She will not be able to vote, Okay, she loses all of these rights for life as a convicted criminal. Her life is ruined because they're scapegoating her. Now let's see what happens to Alec Baldwin. I can almost guarantee you none of this is going to touch him. And Sashi, we know that, you're a step ahead of me. I should have finished reading what you said. Brandon Herrera said it could not happen on that gun. And Brandon Herrera is not the only one. Everybody has said you physically have to pull back that trigger in order to fire a round. And the fact is, his finger never should have been on the trigger unless he was planning to pull the trigger. No, there's a lot wrong here, and it all comes back to Alec Baldwin being responsible. I'm not saying that she doesn't have some culpability, but there are so many extenuating circumstances. I really do hope there is going to be some sort of what's it called? An appeal in this, because there's a lot wrong here. This is going to have a very cooling, and look, you know what this is. We all know what this is. This is California left coast people who hate guns and want to eradicate guns from our country somehow magically. And what this is going to do is, if you are an armorer now that is called in to the industry and asked to oversee a movie, they're going to go, yeah, no. I'm leaving California and I'm going to go open up some FFL in Texas. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm done. And then when you want to do your next, I don't know, John Wick movie, you're going to be fucking out of luck. You're going to have everybody point finger guns and then CG in those guns later. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to film anymore.
I think we'll agree that Alec Baldwin has always shown himself to be a fair and balanced individual.
You're awesome, Sashi. Thanks. Yeah, no, exactly right. Exactly right. This has been a snafu from the get-go, and it's been all on Alec Baldwin's shoulders.
So apparently, though, the guy said there may be a jury. There will probably be a jury for him coming up later. Well, you think he's going to get off scot-free, though, because of this?
It's going to be interesting because we kind of see how this prosecutor works, and something tells me that they're not going to go as hard on Alec Baldwin as they did on this 26-year-old girl. Yeah. Just, I know that's not what you would expect from the progressive people of the Republic of California, but yeah, that's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it.
So I guess we're wrapping up now. You can still catch the end of the Oscars, maybe, huh?
I won't be. I'll tell you where I'm going to be after this. After I get myself a little bit of refreshment, I am going to be heading over to Unscripted with deleted scenes. And if he's talking about
Other Side of Midnight,
what did I say? Did I say
Unscripted?
I am so sorry. What I meant was The Other Side of Midnight. Yes.
Gotcha.
And if he wants to talk Oscars, that's fine. I'll talk Oscars with him. I don't actually want to watch the Oscars.
No. So
Oscar, I barely know her.
Okay. So Other Side of Midnight. Anything going on Monday?
No, but 1 week from Monday, I am going to be starting Last Calls Monday night at the movies. Those of you that are interested in getting in on just helping me decide what my first movie is going to be on Monday, I have 3 polls up on my community tab on my YouTube channel. The reason for that is because I got so many suggestions from you all, and YouTube only allows 5 entries in a poll.
Hmm.
So I'm doing 3 separate polls. Go vote on each one of the 3, your favorite on each one. And then Wednesday morning, I will go through, see what the top ones are, and I'll have a runoff that maybe, I don't know, maybe Friday night I'll announce what movie won and what will be the first movie on Monday.
Cool. And Tuesday we'll be over on Deleted Scenes channel for Sparkwood and 21.
Sparkwood and 21, yeah. He's Deleted Scenes has told me that it's been a very, very successful show for him. And I'm glad. I hope that anybody who is interested in Twin Peaks, who wants to revisit that mystery, come hang out with us. If you've never seen Twin Peaks before, it's also a great time to jump in with us. We're there to kind of guide you through it, because I know that there are some people that are a little intimidated by some of the weirdness of the Lynch Frost world. But it's not as bad as you think. We'll help you out with that. And in fact, check out on my channel. I've got I created a promo video for Live from Sparkwood and 21.
There was some alien abduction stuff going on. Yeah, that last episode.
That does it. It could literally be an alien abduction.
Did I see the Mothman in the background or something? I don't know. I'm just like, or the Owl Man. I guess it would be the Owl Man.
The Owl
Twin
Man?
Peaks, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
But I'm trying to think though. Wednesday, nothing going on this week. Thursday on Thursday Things on Netters Network.
Thursday Things, Netters Network. Who is your guest on Thursday? I forget.
Jedi Bill.
Jedi Bill, who has been a huge influence on many of our channels, regular contributor to the Deleted Scenes channel and vice versa, really. We will be sitting down with him, talking about his channel, finding out what his whole backstory is. You're gonna wanna tune in. It'll be a lot of fun.
And then Friday,
last call. You and I will be sitting down with a couple special guests. We're having Greg from Fanzine and Michael French from Retroblasting. We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about physical media for certain, but a very specific area of physical media. Retroblasting did a video just recently, just last week, about a very specific batch of, but it was a large batch of videos, DVDs that were put out by Warner Brothers from a certain year to a certain year. All the DVDs that came out were completely FUBAR. There was defects in the DVDs, and they are rotting. The coating on the DVDs is oxidizing or going bad, and some discs are good, some don't work at all. And we're talking about discs that are brand new, still in the shrink wrap. So we're going to be talking about that problem and what to do about it. And of course, Greg is our resident expert on physical media, very much the own physical media guy. He's going to, along with the rest of us, I think we're all on the same page here. None of us are saying, well, then forget about, physical media. What can we do about this? And what should we do mentally with this? And what can we do practically? And that will be the talk on Friday. And we will drink. And Saturday, back over to Netters Network for The Darkest Hour. Gary Oldman, World War II drama, excellent film. I did a bit of an analysis on Pop's channel, that one and Dunkirk. So obviously we'll actually be watching the film this Saturday, and I'll be giving my commentary on it too.
And then we have...
Samuel Proctor mentions that in Michael's video, he specifically references, and I off the top of my head, I don't know the channel, but he got a lot of information from that channel. That was a source for him, and he sent a lot of people over there because we'll talk more about it on Friday. We'll talk about that
Weird.
channel.
Like I said, some of those discs I had, some of them I still have, and some of them got lost in the flood. I had that wonderful Maltese Falcon 3-disc edition, which apparently is bad, which is a shame because I'll talk about it on Friday. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about it Friday.
Basically, yeah, it was all 3 versions of the Maltese Falcon. You
Yeah.
know the version with Humphrey Bogart, correct? Did you know that they
Right.
had done 2 versions before that one?
I'd heard about that, but I have not
They
seen
were
them.
included in the set, and it was weird because I think one of them was pre-code. So
Interesting.
they got away with more. And I part of me wondered, did they remake these because of the code, and they had to make them, I guess, the ESG of the time. I guess, well, not really.
Honestly,
ESG.
I'm gonna speculate that going all the way back, remakes were made because they had new actors that they wanted to do, and they wanted to try to make money on the same story over again.
They're basically, yeah. But and also, if you want to check out the Deleted Scenes channel on Monday, there's Mystery Movie Night at the Regal tomorrow night at 10.
I had actually forgotten about that because it used to be that this mystery movie night that he does was once a month, but apparently they've got one every week this month.
Oh.
So yeah, make sure you're checking that out. And he doesn't know until he sees the movie what the movie is he'll be reviewing.
True Romance Action Theater presents on Thursday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time on Delete with
The
Jedi
unrated version of True Romance. Interesting.
Do I have that version? I think I do. All right. Y'all have a good night. Be sure to check out The Other Side of Midnight if you can stay up. And and I'm sure they'll be discussing all the cool Oscar moments this evening. All right.
There you go.
Y'all take care. Any last words, Troy?
No, thank you everyone again. Please make sure you're subscribed to subscribe to this channel. All you gotta do is click on that red button below and turn it gray.
Yes.
I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, Netter's channel,
Yes.
everyone else that's here in the chat. Subscribe to each other. As PJ says, together we grow. Or as I prefer to say, as rising tide raises all ships. This is not a zero-sum game. Let's support your favorite YouTubers.
Be beautiful to one another.
Netter says, "Be beautiful to one another."
Be more like Bugs, less like Daffy.
Uh,
I don't know.
depends on what aspect of Bugs you're saying, but yeah,
Say it like Daffy. Mine. Don't be that. Good night. Take care. Stay strong. This is how we win. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Good night, Lady Mist. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.